So yeah, I work in the SA Murray-Darling Basin region, so that covers the Riverland, parts of the mid-north, the Mallee area and the eastern hills down to Goolwa and the mouth of the Murray. So, so of course we've got the three elements that Philip's taught us about with citizen science projects, so it's where scientists engage with members of the public to collect data and sometimes analyse data with the joint outcomes of education and research. So why do we do it? Well, it's a lot of fun and we think everyone's a winner with these projects. We do it because we can get to collect data that would otherwise be quite hard for us to collect in terms of site access or funding issues. It's also a really good community engagement tool, as we've heard in the other talks, and get people really directly involved in their local environment. Why do the volunteers do it? Well, they're telling us they're doing it because it's fun. They get to get out and about and then learn a lot more about their local environment. They get to meet like-minded people. And they get a much better understanding of their local environment, and if they're a bit concerned about an aspect of their environment, they can also collect that data to make that concern more valid. But a key motivator for them is contributing to something meaningful. They want that to be true and we want that to be true. So for it to be really meaningful, someone's got to use the data and do something with it and make a difference. And who are these people? Well, we have hundreds of people involved in our projects and they come from all walks of life, all different ages, but most of them are retirees with some time on their hands, which is very useful. But often they're very highly educated people. We have people with PhDs, engineers, scientists, ex-company directors, and these are people that know about data quality and data collection. So you can't kind of just dismiss citizen science data as, in one big lump, because there's variation in there and a lot of it can be really good. So really one of our bigger challenges, rather than getting people involved, is getting people to acknowledge that citizen science data is useful and can be used to answer a range of questions. So just to go through how our collaborative sort of projects work. So our roles are in developing projects. We promote the projects, obviously. We can sometimes select priority sites. Obviously attracting people, it's not going to work without people involved. We provide training because ours are more focused projects where people do need a bit of training. We provide equipment so that it's more standardised. Everyone's collecting the data on using the same sort of equipment. We're involved in the data management. We produce a data sheet, so once again people are collecting the same data. We vet the data as well. It's obviously really important. If you've got dodgy data coming in, it's dodgy stuff coming out. So we have mechanisms in place to try and make sure the data is the best quality possible. We store the data and make sure it's also, once it's vetted, stored in places like the Biological Database of South Australia. And we're also involved in the data analysis at our regional level. And then there's obviously that important feedback part where we make sure the reports and the feedback get back to the participants so they know that they are contributing to something meaningful. And so their roles, they can also develop questions, or if there's a site of interest to them, they can come and tell us and we can try and help them set something up. They're obviously involved in the data collection, sometimes in data analysis, and we also ask for feedback from them. As well as us giving feedback to them, we want to know if it's working for them. Because obviously if they're not enjoying it, if it's not working, it's too cumbersome, it's too difficult, they need more training, we need to know that or the whole project's going to fall apart. So here's our threes. We have three main projects, a water quality catchment health project, a bird monitoring project and a bat monitoring project. And because I'm doing three, I'll just go quite quickly through them. So our water quality project started with the Water Watch program, which started 10 or so years ago. And I believe that started as a relatively scientific type project, the Water Watch project, but over time as more and more people got involved and funding decreased, the quality of the data that was coming in was dropping and people weren't getting that feedback. So in lots of places around Australia it's just stopped altogether, but some places are keeping it going, and we have kept it going because there's a lot of community interest in it and we have a lot of data going back over 10 years. But we're really trying to get that science research part of it back in and increasing the data quality so it is useful. And we're trying to So the kind of questions we're asking here is we're tracking catchment health over time. It's really that baseline monitoring stuff, and if something looks like it's of concern, we have partnerships going with the EPA so that if someone's concerned, we're concerned about the data coming in from a site, they go in and investigate. So we have a bespoke database that was set up quite a few years ago where people can input the data, but we have to vet it before it's accepted. And another thing that we're also introducing now is gauging boards and photo points, so people can monitor water levels and flow as well, because that's a big concern in the Eastern Mount Lofty ranges with water allocation planning. So we can adapt these projects a bit. Once we've got that engagement and that bit of knowledge with people out there, we can adapt it to information that's needed. So the bird project, so this was a project where it's similar to the EP one, but slightly different. So we're just, once again, needed some more information on bird species distribution across the region. So we were asking local birdos who are out and about all the time to tell us what they see so we can gather that data, and it's useful for us as well. But we also run training programs for people who aren't expert birders, similar to the EP one, so people can increase their skills and also contribute as well. So this one can also be used at certain sites. For example, we've got an environmental watering program happening in our region, and so we're getting the community to monitor changes in the bird species diversity over time as the watering happens. So people can go out and do their own sites of interest, or we can also direct them to certain areas. So the bat project, this is the newest one. This stemmed from community interest in bats, but also, once again, in this case, quite a severe lack in species information, species distribution across the region, and also threatened bat species in the region as well. So this one's a bit better in that we've got more control over the data that's coming in, because what we get people to do is put anabat recorders out in certain areas. So whereas the bird one, we're going on there what they tell us they see, unless they happen to take photos of the species. But one thing we should have said with the bird project is we get people to rate their level of experience so that people can filter the data. If there's experts out there that use our data portal, so if someone wanted to just use that data and leave out the beginner stuff, that's fine. Whereas with the bat one, it's all being collected with the anabat recorders, and we can just analyse the sonograms to work out the species. So, and this is the data sheet that goes with it. So we collect habitat type, obviously the place, the time, and climate information as well. So then we have volunteers who are going to be trained up in analysing the call sonograms to identify the species, and also project officers are trained up in this too. So we have reference calls for the different species in the region. It's then matched up against the sonograms. So we use, for the bird and the bat project, we use an ALA portal, linked with the Atlas of Living Australia. And the information that's collected on those data sheets is then entered by the person who's doing the bat call analysis, and it matches up with what's on the data sheet. And in the same kind of way that you have to answer all the important questions, and it all matches up. And then this database can be searched either as a list, as a map, and you can export the data as before with a spreadsheet or a shapefile. Now, the cool thing about this one is that we get the person doing the analysis to put a screenshot of the sonogram that they use, so that someone can then go and actually check that that was the species that they thought it was. So there's a bit more control over the data in this project. So we think our projects do tick all those 3 boxes. There's a lot of engagement involved in these projects. It's a lot of work. We run lots of events to make people aware of the projects. There's a lot of public involvement, as well as we try and get it out in the media so that more people are aware as well. And we do have to provide that feedback, and that's a time-consuming thing as well. Writing the reports, even just the newsletters and things like that, and the immediate feedback to people that have input data. So we would love to run more of these projects, but we're currently at staff and funding capacity because they are quite intensive, but they are great projects. It's obviously, it is providing education to the community, as I said, to the ones directly involved and also the ones reading and following us in the media. And it does have research component. There's a range of questions that this data is being used for and can be used for. There is reasonable levels of data collection. We do verify the data as much as we possibly can. We make sure it's stored, and as I said, it goes into BDBSA as well as into ALA. And it does get analysed. It's not just data that's going into a database and no one ever looks at it. Like, that's not what we want. So we really want everyone else that might want this data to be aware of it and also to make use of it wherever they can. And we believe that this data will greatly contribute to a better knowledge of catchment health, species distribution and the management needs in our region, and we'd very much like these projects to go wider. I just held a bird workshop in Mount Barker, and there was 20 people attended and only 2 were actually from our region, but that's okay, we'll share the love. Lots were from AMLR and someone from Northern and York, and they were saying, why can't we do this in our region? I said, well, get it going, it'll happen. Yeah, so we think there's a bright future with citizen science. Thank you.